8 games on the night slate, all kinds of afternoon action going on in MLB for Wednesday, May 15th. But how and what games should we be betting? That's what you're going to find out right here on First Pitch. Dan Alexander here, and joining me are two of the best in baseball capping. That's right, Steve Merril and Mark Zinno are joining me on today's program, and we're going to break down the full slate for you, dictated by what you guys want to talk about here. Shout out to the live chat. But gentlemen, let's get right on into it and start off with 2 R's, 1 L, and talk this Lance Lynn Griffin Canning matchup that we have on my side of the country today. The LA Angels continuing against the St. Louis Cardinals. And Steve, this is what you have tabbed as your big game breakdown, the road favorite here. You agree with the number?
Yeah, I'll be damned if we're going to keep talking Phillies. You live in California now. I'm trying to woo you into the LA Angels. You can't have the Dodgers.
Damn.
Can't give me the Dodgers because that's no fair. They're actually like the best team in baseball. I'm wearing Dodger blue as I say that. But, you know, we talk about the zigzag a lot with the NBA show. And by the way, I'll be back on the NBA show at 4:15 Eastern. We'll be taking live questions about both Game 5s tonight, Cavs, Celtics, Thunder, Mavericks. So be sure to check that out here. And if you're joining us later in the day or the evening, you can watch the replay here. Joe Ranieri and I will be taking those questions. And then Dan Alexander will be in the studio producing. So it'll be a great show, to say the least. But we talk about the zigzag a lot in the NBA playoffs, and that was where I was going with that. I realized I got lost there for a second. But the zigzag works sometimes in baseball as well. And the Cardinals entered this series a couple nights ago as the second lowest scoring team in baseball. And what have they done since? Well, the first 2 games in Anaheim, they've scored 17 runs on 22 hits. The last 2 games have soared over the total, 15 and 13 run performances. And maybe that offense is heating up. They've had double-digit hits now in 4 straight games. But they return home after tonight's game to play Friday against the Red Sox and the Orioles, some American League East teams. I think the offense might come back down to earth a little bit. So we'll play the zigzag here in baseball with the under 8.5. And I think it's going to work tonight for a couple reasons. Not only do I think we get a reversion to the mean, we got Lance Lynn on the mound. He's coming off mediocre starts his last 2 times out. I look for him to bounce back for that reason. And then Canning also, he's a guy that had a great start, 6-inning shutout. He's given up only 2 runs in almost 12 innings his last 2 outings. I look for his current form to continue. I look for Lynn to pitch better. I look for both offenses to come back down to earth. These are still 2 of the weaker offensive teams in baseball. I'm not a believer in what we've seen the last couple nights. So we'll take a stab at the under 8.5. Would have liked to gotten 9 or more. That's what kept it off the card. But I still think there's a little bit of value. And if you look at some of the sharper books out there, the leading indicator books are 8.5 under 20. While the rest of the market is 8.5 under 15. So there's a little bit of sharp money on the under 8.5 between the Cardinals and Angels tonight at 9 Eastern on Wednesday.
Yeah, well, Steve, if you're trying to get me to bounce over to a Los Angeles team, the team that's lost 5 out of their last 6, probably not the one that I'm going with. Probably the wagon that we have to lay like $2 to back every single night. And the Dodgers, if I'm going to change allegiance, is the way that I'm going to go. I'm a front runner. What can I say? But we also got Mark.
Cheaper tickets, you get better seats.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong there.
Well, as long as I can get a little something about that.
Yeah, as long as I can get the ice cream in the helmet for a decent price, that's all I care about when I go to the ballpark. That's all that matters to me. Mark Zinno is with us as well. And Zinno, you're actually eyeing a pitcher prop here out of the gate. And I'm intrigued because it's a guy who we really don't have much data on, but you're thinking Bryan Woo today could be worth a wager, but it might not be looking at him to really be putting people up and putting them down. It's Kansas City and Seattle. That's the game you have tabbed for the big game breakdown, and you're looking at a pitcher prop for the folks. Tell us why Bryan Woo is making your card.
And you have to say correctly, Bryan Woo, like Ric Flair style. So,
Ric Flair, you got to throw the arms back. Yeah,
right. We get a great pitching matchup here with Alec Marsh of KC and Bryan Woo of Seattle. Not a lot of runs expected in this one, but playing on Bryan Woo here in a little bit dangerous spot, taking his under K prop at 4.5. Now, this is just his second start of the year. He made his first start last week at home against Oakland, a game that Seattle won 8-1. Only went 4 1/3 innings, only gave up 1 hit, and only struck out 3. And this is more about Woo being brought along slowly more than anything else. It's dangerous because the Mariners have the highest K rate of any team in baseball against right-handed pitching. Well, the Oakland A's have the 4th highest K rate against right-handed pitching, and they only struck out 3 times here. in their last matchup here. And I just don't think Wu is going to go deep enough into this game here to be able to get the strikeouts that he needs to go over this number. Now, it's also interesting to note that his first strikeout prop in his first start back was 5.5. Odds makers came down to make this 4.5. If you know anything about Brian Wu from last year in his rookie campaign, this was a young man who came out and was mowing guys down at the very start. Even though he was getting banged around early, he was getting a lot of strikeouts. So it's a guy that people would look to bet the over, but it's one of these spots here where they're juicing this over so heavily that it's calling my name to go in the other direction because they're making you pay such a premium on doing it against a high strikeout team. And I think we get a very favorable number here with his under at minus 105, minus 106, depending on where you shop around. But I think this is about Brian Wu not going much past 5. And in a game where not a lot of runs are expected here, I don't know that Seattle is going to be mowed down as much as we think they are going to here. But this is a spot here, KC rather, who does not have a very high strikeout rate at all. That's the other part of this whole thing. That Kansas City only strikes out 18.6% of the time, one of the lowest strikeout rates in all of baseball. And so we're going to put Wu here on the bump here and think he's going to go under 4.5 strikeouts against a very low K rate team. And with him only striking out 3 last time against a high K rate team in Oakland, guess what? This is a spot here I think we can fade Brian Wu a little bit to stay under this number.
Yeah, number makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. I love diving into some of those pitcher props. Hop below in the comments, or if you're with us on the live chat, hop in the live chat and let us know what player props you have slated in for today. And while you're hanging out with us, make sure you hit that like button. And if you haven't already, give us a follow and subscribe here to the channel. Goes a long way in keeping this content coming around the clock for you. Shout out, speaking of which, to the chat. I mean, the shorts feed and the live feed on the desktop is just popping over there. Tyler, FB Coach, Have Cash, C. James saying that I should run for president. I don't want those problems, guys. I'll stick the host in the baseball show here today. But shout out to everybody. yeah, exactly.
Gavin Newsom look out there in California. I can see a little Gavin Newsom in him.
Yeah, it would be hard to oppose there. Yeah. So no, I'll leave those problems to the other folks, and I'll just keep trying to cash some winners with these gentlemen right here. Steve, I just want to circle back before we run down some of these other games. Our man Tyler, a loyal guy in the chat, he loved the breakdown that you had talking as far as the total was there in the Angels in St. Louis. Either of you guys, and Steve, I'll start with you. You have anything on the side in that game? Because for me, it's hard to want to back the Angels even at a plus price at home. So for me, it was pass. I eyed the total much like you. I didn't really have much for the side.
Yeah, I'd lean Cardinals for a couple reasons. Like you said, the Angels are struggling. And as I mentioned, my concern with the under 8.5 is that the Cardinals have been very good offensively. Double-digit hits in 4 straight games, 17 runs in this series. So I think you could hedge that under a little bit with the Cardinals on the money line, because my concern there is that the Cardinals offense continues. And if it does, they probably get the win. You could also play Angels team total under instead of the game under, because I do think Lynn is likely to have a good bounce back as far as the 2 starting pitchers go. So I'd lean Cardinals to win the game under, but also that would transfer to Angels under as well.
Yeah. And Zinno, for you, I mean, if you're looking at the evening slate here tonight, there isn't much road chalk. It's that St. Louis game, and then the other just usual is wherever you're at with the Dodgers, you're going to lay a little something. So out of those 2 LA games, you have 2 road favorites. You think the road chalk in LA is worthy as well? I mean, it's not that awful. If you're looking at a Dodgers price, it's under minus 150. Typically don't see that, and you're getting it against this Giants team that really just can't figure it out at the plate. So any thoughts on that Dodgers and San Francisco game?
Yeah, real quick before I get to that, I want to point out one thing real quick, because the game just got underway for the viewers. We are in a world today where the Chicago White Sox are the worst team in baseball. We're a minus 145 favorite. The game just started. Woo. There's just not a world where I would ever lay minus 145 with the White Sox. I know it's Patrick Corbin on the mound for the Nationals, but if you can still get the Nationals at a plus price on the money line, it's just worth it to me. Like at a sheer principle, Steve Merril, like there's not a world where I believe the White Sox should be a minus 145 favorite against anybody.
I love betting out of sheer principle. That's fantastic.
I can't explain one odds maker said, you know what, let's make them basically a 1.5 to 1 favorite here, and it's Chicago Whites. Anyway, moving on.
But Mark, it's an excellent point. They're the most profitable team in baseball like the last week and a half. I saw Jeff Michaels, Ralph's son, had a tweet on that a couple of days ago. Like over a 10-game span, they've been the most profitable team in baseball. So it shows how quickly they can adjust, though, right after that 3-22 start.
Or overreact.
That too, yeah. I mean, it could be a combination of both. Let me just say this much about the Dodgers tonight when you talk about the price for them, as they are a minus 145, minus 150 favorite. Simply put, guys, when the Dodgers are minus 155 on the money line or less, they are 10-4 this year, straight up. Whew. So that's enough for me at that rate to take the Dodgers at minus 155 or less on the money line. Again, I'm very juice adverse in baseball when it comes to laying these kind of numbers, but you know, when you're getting the Dodgers at this price, it's hard for me to turn down.
Yeah, and I think you touched upon something too there, and it's that buzzword of value that you hear all the time. And value doesn't mean you're getting insane, plus money, or you're finding a diamond in the rough, so to speak. Sometimes it means you're looking at a favorite that's still, if you're talking about juice adverse bettors, a minus 150 on a team playing against a San Francisco team that's just been really malaised at the plate and really not that great in the pitching. If you look at what happened last night, that's value to me,
Forget the ever popular undecided who's the starter tonight for, the Dodgers, or at least it's still undecided, right? Forget the ever popular undecided. Let's just put the two lineups against one another. And can the Dodgers hit Logan Webb? Well, the short answer is yes. Can the Giants hit anybody? The short answer is no.
I mean, it's hard to disagree. Sometimes it is that simple. Sometimes it's just sheer principle, according to our man Mark Zinno. Speaking of which, sheer principle, we got some folks here in the chat, and I think what do we got? FB Coach here who says sheer principle is what puts him on the Colorado Rockies tonight. Austin Gomer on the mound, the lefty opposing Michael King. They're taking on San Diego, and don't look now, but talk about bad teams that are playing well. Colorado, they pick up the win last night. They've been playing decent since they've gotten away, and even at home when they were facing off against the aforementioned San Francisco Giants. Maybe it's just the teams they're getting at the right time, but according to FB Coach, Colorado at a nice plus money price is going to be on his card. Can he win you over, Steve Merril? That one's tough for me back in Colorado.
Well, sheer principle is a good handicapping angle, but there's another one as well, is when I don't use a game and they're going to guarantee to win. And the reason I say that is because I had the Padres as a free play a couple nights ago on Monday, and it missed out. But I thought that set up in a better play as a best bet. I was glad I kind of missed that free play because it was a last cut, wasn't a best bet. And I was like, you know what? Now's the setup to play them. And last night, that was our baseball loss. That was my one client play. So staying off them here when I have a read that's not quite right with teams, I stay off them. But that probably means the Padres are a lock slam dunk winner here at 4 o'clock Eastern today because I'm not using them for the first time this week. What do you do with the Rockies? We talked about the White Sox, right? 3-22 start, and now the most profitable team in baseball for a couple weeks. Same thing with the Rockies. They've now won 6 straight games. They're a terrible team. This is a team that was 8-28 to start the season, and now they've won 6 straight. So we do see these mini runs from teams. I always say it, the worst team in baseball is going to still win 50 games, and the Rockies are an example of that. So I'm staying off this game today, but I still think the Padres are the better team. Hard to imagine they're going to get swept at home in 3 here. I think it's a focus spot. So I do like San Diego here, but I kept it off the card just because I have not had the right read on these two teams the last couple nights.
And Dan, I'll add this in real quick
go ahead,
in reference to this game here with Michael King on the mound. If you look at his numbers on the macro, you see 54 strikeouts in 49 innings. It's better than 1 per inning, obviously. And the Rockies are a high strikeout rate team. And I don't know why I keep focusing on the strikeout props here, but Michael King listed at 6.5. Very juiced to the over at minus 140 in that range. He's only gone over this number twice this entire season. One was in his last start. He had 11 against the Dodgers. The other one was against Milwaukee on the road. He had 10. Other than that, in his 7 other starts, he stayed under this number. And so, I get it. Like I said, again, he faced Colorado last week, or back at the end of April, rather. 5 strikeouts in 3 2/3. He got banged around, so he didn't last long enough. But if they keep him to under 7 innings here, I don't know if he goes over this number.
Yeah, and we got some folks here in the chat as well. Eric D saying, "Hey, why not do the Adam Trigger special? Take the 1.5 with Colorado. You know, he loves taking when the money makes sense. But yeah, you could also split your wager if you want to have a little bit of assurance if they can keep it within that one. But hey, at that plus 205 and up price, if you do like the Rockies, it's not going to be on my card, but I get making the case and taking a nice price like that on a Wednesday slate.
And there's another game that fits that same profile here with Oakland and Houston.
What's that?
That the Yankees who have lost the last two are getting, you can get a 1.5 with them at a very manageable, like minus 120 in that range. I know Framber Valdez is on the mound for Houston, and Aaron Brooks, it looks like Oakland's going with a bullpen game here. But the plus 1.5 here fits the profile of low risk from a juice perspective, so you don't have to get leveraged a lot against it, and you're going up against a team that doesn't want to get swept.
Yeah, and if you want to get Steve Merrill's thoughts on that, that's actually coming up here in the best bets. So we'll circle back on that Astros and A's game, a little breakdown, a little preview, so to speak, from our man Mark Zinno, and he's got a best bet coming up, a first 5 play in Tampa Bay and Boston. So stay tuned. Best bets are coming. We're rolling here with some of the chat, but you also heard Steve talk about the free plays that are posted all the time at these cappers pages, wt.buzz/SM, and for Mark Zinno, wt.buzz/MZ. Also, when you head on over to their pages, not just the free plays, you can get some big time savings. This deal is going to expire here rather soon, but 7 days of MLB plays for just under $50. So usually you're going to be paying around $80 for that. We're chopping 30 days. Rock with these guys for a full week of plays. A great deal over at both of these gentlemen and all of our baseball cappers plays right now at WagerTalk. All right, I waited long enough here, Steve. You were hosting Wager Talk today, filling in for the Prez. It's a Prez-free zone here and on Wager Talk today the rest of the week. But you were saying, as Adam Trigger was breaking down this game, you were like, maybe I'm not going to have to talk about the Phillies and the Mets. And I hopped on the mic. I said, what are you talking about? We're doing first pitch. We're talking Phillies and Mets, baby, because it's Ranger Suarez Day. This one goes at 6:40 this evening. Phillies almost over a $2 favorite in this one as they're opposing. It looks like it's going to be Lechesny on the mound for the Mets, which again, unknown, but the known commodity has been when Ranger Suarez is on the bump, you just bet Ranger Suarez to record a win, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's cashed every single time he's been on the hill. You think tonight might be the night that it changes? I will say it's a pitcher-friendly night. It's not a pitcher-friendly park, but winds are blowing in at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. Cool temperatures setting up for a Ranger Suarez dime. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, Adam Trigger broke this game down on Wager Talk today earlier, so be sure to go back, get his take on it. He had one interesting stat, which I wasn't aware of. He said Ranger Suarez, I believe, has the lowest hard hit percentage in all of baseball this year. I thought that was a very interesting angle, and I started thinking to myself, like, what makes balls less hit hard against one guy than another? And, I mean, my initial thought, I'll get your guys' thought on this as well, is that the ball is moving probably. They're just not getting a hold of it. So I think he's got good movement on his pitches. That's something that likely will continue. And therefore, I don't think it's a fluke that he's off to this monster start. And you and I both know, Dan, how well the Phillies have been playing. This is a team that started just 2-4 beginning of the season, and they have turned things on since. Their current form remains excellent, winning these first 2 games in New York. In fact, after that 2-4 start, they've gone 26-9 since then in their 35 games since. So not fading this Phillies team anytime soon. One thing I will point out, though, is that looks like the offense might be coming back down to earth, though. This team's had 8 hits or less now in 3 straight games. It all started with that 6-hit game against Miami on Sunday. They've only had 8 and 7 hits. Even though they've put up 9 runs, it hasn't been on many hits. So the under could be worth a look here, especially if Suarez continues to dominate on the mound.
Yeah, I mean, Schwarber, he's really having a tough time at the plays. Bryce Harper, he was scratched yesterday for a migraine. So it's like before the game, you never really know who's going to be in this lineup. The injuries kind of stacking up. So it feels like, yes, the shoe has to drop on this Phillies team eventually. But Zinno, it hasn't yet. Like, do we just keep riding the train, keep eating the chalk, or what do you think? Do you try and hop in when you think the fade spot is coming, like our guy Adam Trigger does?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general what you're starting to allude to is two things, and don't look in the rearview mirror right now if you're the Phillies, because the Braves are a team as far as like winning this division. The Phillies right now are still a plus money to win the division, and the Braves are still the odds-on favorite. The Braves have been dealing with a whole bunch of injuries on their own for the first month plus of the season. Austin Riley's been out. Sean Murphy's been out. Their pitching staff has been decimated with injuries up to this point. So, not to rain on your parade for the Phillies here, Dan, but I still think the Braves are the right team to win this division. I wouldn't jump in on the Phillies right now to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't know if anyone else heard
Here?
him. I was like, when you besmirch the Phillies, the microphone will end up losing. I was like, I'm refreshing over.
Yeah, we all know Dan hit the mute button.
All right,
Dan's a producer at heart. He's a Phillies lover and a producer at heart. We all know he hit the mute button.
I think the Braves are still the right side in that division. I was like, mute his ass.
There we go.
Get that out of here.
It's the ridiculous version of Around the Horn run by Dan Alexander. If I don't say what you like, I just mute. There you go.
Yeah, no. But I do want to hear you finish up that thought on what you think about this Phillies team, because I kind of agree with you, man. I love it as a Phillies fan that we keep on cashing with them. It just kind of defies logic when you see the injuries that are stacking up, when you see the fact that you're getting maybe an overproduction from a guy like Ranger Suarez. Sure, he's been terrific, but it's just when it ain't broke, I'm not fixing it, and I got to keep riding the streak. But I think you were saying why that streak may be coming to an end here in the next few weeks to months.
And it's not even a question of coming to an end. They'll just normalize, right? They won't get bad. They won't all of a sudden go 8-20 in their next 28 games. They'll just be around 500, and the Braves will naturally get better as they get healthier along the way, because they are a better team. They won the division 6 years in a row for a reason. So I think that there's some ways to look at it that way. The premium you're paying on Ranger Suarez right now is through the roof, right? They're nearly a 2-1 favorite against a division rival in the Mets. Like that's a little bit steep of a price. You can't buy into the Phillies at that point in time. You certainly don't want to lay the run and a half, given the fact that it is the Mets and they do have a good pitching and they have very good bullpen. And the way I would look at this game more than anything is I would look to a first 5 under, and all you do really is hope that if Suarez is as good as he's always been, the runs don't come until late, and that the Phillies bats, which, as Steve said, starting to cool off, remain cooled off against a Mets pitcher who obviously doesn't have a track record this year, but might be able to get more outs than expected in this spot.
Yeah, it makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. And if we're talking about the Phillies, and people are here in the chat saying, that's the battle for sure. The Phillies versus Braves battle to win the division. Shout out to Let's Dance over there in the YouTube Shorts chat. Also, shout out to Escudo Mexicano, who says, "You look like Clay Guida." So if anybody, you old school UFC fans, the dude with the long hair, look it up. I could definitely see it. He definitely has a little bit more muscle definition than I do. So we've gotten Q, we've gotten Clay Guida. So you can continue in the chat. And if you're watching on the rewatch, comments below, who are my other doppelgangers that are out there? Because the list
Big
continues.
Lebowski. I keep forgetting to mention that one. You said dude a few weeks ago, and I kept thinking Big Lebowski ever since. You're a younger version of Big Lebowski. One of the most underrated movies ever.
The rug really tied the room together, Steve. It really tied the room together.
Doesn't look good about getting the credence back. Don't look good about getting the
White
credence
Russians
back. Also
not my vibe. Anytime
Caucasians.
You're mixing milk with vodka, that's not the vibe.
So I was always a big White Russian fan back in the day, and I've never. I think I tried it once after seeing that movie with the powdered milk instead of the actual cream or milk, and that is basically still a Black Russian, but he makes it with the powdered coffee creamer. That's hardcore right there, Mark Zinno.
Yeah, that's hardcore indeed. Now we're giving you mixology tips. You never know what you're going to get here on First Pitch. It's what we do here on the live show. If you like what we do, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that follow button as well. We greatly appreciate it. Sometimes we get off track here, but we also continue getting the winners for you. And Zinno, I want to throw it back to you because we were talking about the Phillies. I think it's rightful to talk about the Braves, who are also laying a number with Charlie Morton on the mound, Javier Assad on the other side of the bump for the Cubbies. In that one, Atlanta coming off an absolute rolling of the Cubs, which is why I get the pitching matchup is why you're seeing this number. But I also think maybe a little bit of recency biased into this big number for Atlanta. This one, I looked at that number. I crossed it off on my card. Did you find anything here in Atlanta and the Cubbies?
I mean, look, there's a lot of reasons here, believe it or not, to bet the Chicago Cubs. I mean, do you guys know how many runs the Cubs have scored in the first 2 games? As many as Dan, Steve, and I have scored. That would be 0. They've been shut out in back-to-back games. They have a total of 8 hits. Like, at some point, and I keep invoking his name because as a Yankee fan, you know, we hear John Sterling, but he would always say, well, you know, Susan, that's just baseball. And that's just baseball means that the Cubs have to score in this game. Like, that's just kind of like, you're not going to get shut out 3 days in a row. I suppose you could, but I don't think it's likely. Charlie Morton is a pitcher here who's feast or famine, has been for the last season plus. You're going to get 6 innings, 1 run out of him, and 3 hits, or it's going to be 5 innings, 5 runs, and he's having a good, really good start or a bad start. Like, that's just the way it goes here. And you might get bad Charlie Morton to show up tonight against a Cubs team that is finally going to break out, especially when you look at his last 4 starts. 2 runs, no runs, 2 runs, 1 run. The start before that against Miami, he gave up 6 in 5 2/3. Like, Morton is an innings eater, so he's going to pitch 5+ innings, but he may get banged around in doing so here. I actually kind of like the Cubs in this spot, guys. I mean, I know it's not the most favorable, thing on the surface when you look at it here, but if I'm going to take +1.5 at -126 with the Cubs, seems like a pretty nice investment at this point in time.
Yeah, and Steve, I know there might be some wind concerns, a little bit of wind blowing out, and maybe some rain that we should track in this game. But it looks like the game will end up being played at all. But with this Braves team, why don't we just keep backing unders? Right? I think in the last 10, they're like 1-9 to the under.
19-1-1, guys, in the last 21 to the 19-1.
Yeah, and FB coach,
and it's the highest total on the board tonight.
Go ahead.
Dan, every game is 8.5 or less.
Sense.
Every game is 8.5 or less, except for this game. So that wind better be blowing out extra hard that you referenced because it makes no sense. And it's something Mark said earlier. It was about the Braves. You know, they're not healthy. They're getting healthy, whatever. The results aren't showing it, right? That offense is not healthy. They've had 10 hits or less in 11 straight games. They've had single-digit hits in 10 of the last 11. And then, oh, by the way, the other team, the Cubs, have been shut out back-to-back games, like Mark said. So, yeah, you could play the over here, but the value is with the under 9.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was surprised, and we even saw it tick up a little bit. Yeah, I just if it ain't broke, don't fix it is something that we like hearing on the NBA show as well with our man Joe Ranieri, and it kind of feels like it fits the mold when you're talking about a 19-1-1 run. How are you betting that one? Chicago Cubs, Atlanta Bravos. You catching the falling knife and going with the over? Let us know why in the comments below. Appreciate you, and if you're watching on the rewatch, make sure you hit that like button. We would appreciate that. All right, guys, let's talk some best bets here, and we'll circle back if anyone has some other games that we want to touch upon. But, Steve, I'm going to start with you here. First of all, let folks know what you have locked and loaded over at WagerTalk.com, that they can partner with you for 7 days for a huge discount. And also let us know how we're looking to bet the Astros and the A's tonight, Steve.
Yeah, we're talking baseball here, but let's not forget about the NBA playoffs. They continue tonight. I'm breaking down every playoff game every day of the postseason, full video style. That is available right here on Wager Talk TV. Deep dive into both Game 5s tonight. Celtics, Cavs, Thunder, Mavericks. And also I'll be on at 4:15 Eastern live with Joe Ranieri. We'll be answering all the viewer questions in the live chat, and then that's archived afterwards as well. So lots of NBA content. I'm number 1 all-time units 1 in the NBA. So you might want to check out my best bet tonight for Wednesday night NBA action. And I also have a baseball best bet tonight. They're each 25. We're getting them both for just 29. 2-for-1 special tonight on Wednesday. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And check out the daily free plays. In fact, I'm going to give you the one I posted right here, right now on this show, and that's the Houston Astros -1.5, -120 on the run line. We're not laying -230, -240. We're going to get it down to a very reasonable price, -1.5, -120. Astros, one of the biggest money burners in baseball. In fact, the Marlins are the only bigger money burner this year. But Houston started to turn the corner, it looks like, and they've won now 5 of their last 6. Meanwhile, the A's, off to a surprisingly decent start by their standards, have now lost 5 out of 6 and 8 of their last 10. So I think this is a good situational spot once again for Houston. They won the first game 9-2 on Monday. Yes, they only won 2-1 yesterday on Tuesday night in extra innings, but their starter got ejected. Blanco got kicked out before the 4th inning for sticky stuff inside his glove. Not a surprise. He'd been vastly overperforming this year. He had a no-hitter in his first start. Now we know why. And I think that was a huge distraction for Houston. I look for him to bounce back tonight with their best pitcher on the mound, Framber Valdez. And yeah, the bullpen had 5 relievers used. That's a concern, but Valdez can go 7+ innings. In fact, he has 3 complete games against Oakland, the most against any team during his career. And Oakland has not done well against him. If you look at my free play on my page here at WagerTalk.com in the analysis, you'll see that I mentioned Oakland's lineup has hit just 154, 10 for 65 against Valdez. That's the current lineup tonight. And then we've got Aaron Brooks, who pitches about as well as the old UVA quarterback, Aaron Brooks. I believe he was a Detroit Lion quarterback too, so I don't want to get the Wager Talk team all upset, but he was a Virginia guy. I can say it. I think he was a Newport News guy right down the road, actually. He might have been a better starting option here. Brooks hasn't made a start since, I believe, 2022 with the Cardinals. He made 8 starts this year for the Las Vegas AAA team, and the batting average is .301 for opponents, and that's in minor league baseball. You can imagine how bad he's going to be tonight. Huge pitching matchup. I like the situational setup. Let's play the run line. Astros -1.5, -120 at 8 Eastern tonight on Wednesday.
The Astros, you have to double check. There's no way the Astros were cheating. Just the pinnacle of just excellence and integrity is what I
claim
think
they
of
weren't.
when I see
he
the
claims
Houston
the rosin
Astros
got into his glove.
Yeah.
So the
it just
umpire
slipped
said
in
it was
there.
the stickiest thing he'd ever felt. He couldn't get the glove off his hand. And apparently he had rosin. Now, granted, this is all through the Spanish translator for Blanco, so there could have been lost in the translation. That's what makes the story even better, is the dude is explaining he wasn't cheating by having a translator say it.
I went to the bathroom. I came out. I don't know. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what happened.
No comprende. That's all I heard in the whole post-game interview. So I don't know.
Yo no say, indeed. Man, that is just a wild story. We have to see. I think it's like a 10-game suspension, which also
they're
seems
guessing
like
a 10-game is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
and what's interesting about it too, Dan, is Teddy and I talked about this on Wager Talk today. How we're in the second quarter of the baseball season. Everyone's played 40-some games, and Mark mentioned how the White Sox are all of a sudden the most profitable team in baseball. The Rockies have won 6 straight. You do have to handicap a little different, but let's remember exactly this time 3 years ago. June of 21 is when they started cracking down big time on the substance, the sticky stuff. And it's also when they changed baseball. So we always see baseball do this stuff like in June. They'll make changes. If the scoring is down, all of a sudden the laces are different on the baseball. So another reason we got to kind of tread lightly with the handicap and not look too much at the April and May stuff.
Right. And the weather gets warmer. Ball's harder to grip in colder weather, so they're probably a little bit more lenient with the whole thing. But I did appreciate how Steve went, not surprising. And I'm sitting here just thinking, Frisco, Bar Dog, Badger-Seal, anyone can get another 2 to 3 inches drop on your curveball.
How's Trevor Bauer doing nowadays?
Oh, God. We got Robert S. chiming in over on the Shorts feed. He said, Astros got caught cheating again. I guess they hired Belichick as a consultant, which, hey, he's probably looking for work.
Available.
So, yeah, he's definitely available if you want to bring him in there. I think he might be down at the local high school. NFL schedule dropping tonight, by the way. If you haven't looked at all those leaks, I'm sure we'll have some takes from our man Teddy Covers tomorrow.
Big game, not big game breakdown, but what bettors learn tomorrow. Teddy Covers is going to break that down, actually. So another reason to watch Wager Talk today, tomorrow. Teddy is always looking at the NFL, as we know.
It never ends, and more reason than ever to hit that little bell. Make sure you're subscribed. All right, Zinno, your best bet. We actually, surprisingly, some days it's first 5 days, where a lot of games we're talking first 5 wagers. We haven't really touched upon it much today, but your best bet comes in the first 5 of Tampa Bay and Boston, and you just might think the runs might not be so plentiful in that one. Tell us why. Under is the look in the first 5.
Yeah, before we get to the first 5, first, what's on the site tonight for me over at WagerTalk.com. If Steve Merril is the big flame in the NBA, as hot as he is, I'm the little flame chasing up right behind him on an 11-5 run. That's 69% since April 1st, guys. We're at 65%, up almost 20 units in the NBA alone. I got a 4% best bet coming up tonight. We cashed our winner last night with the over in Denver and Minnesota. So we continue to stay hot in the NBA as well. I put up a free play on my page that we highlighted this morning on the Morning Wager. Go check out the Morning Wager on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. The play is there as well. It's an interesting look in the Celtics and Cavs game, a very non-traditional play that I absolutely love the angle on that Brian Power and I found this morning. So check out the Morning Wager, but the free play is posted up on my page, along with the 4% winner in the NBA tonight, WT.buzz/MZ. All right, back now to the Rays and Red Sox here in Boston. You get the starting matchup between Taj Bradley making his second start for the Tampa Bay Rays here with a 1.5 ERA and a 1 whip. He went 6 innings in his first start, struck out 7, was very, very good and very economical, despite the fact that the Rays took the loss there against Tanner Houck of the Red Sox, who's been one of their more reliable starters despite his 3-4 record. They're not giving him a ton of run support. He's got a 2.24 ERA and a sub-1 whip. And 50 strikeouts and 52 and a third innings here. But let's look at the lineups here, because the Red Sox guys at home this year, very middle of the road on the lower third, on the lower half rather, of the middle third of teams, around 19 or 20th in batting average, OPS, WRC plus at home, including runs scored at home. They're 21st in the league this year. They're going up against a Rays team on the road, guys, away. On the road this year, outside of the Chicago White Sox, you guys know who's hit the fewest home runs on the road this year? Yes, I'll tell you, it is the Tampa Bay Rays. They won't hit many. They've also, their second fewest runs scored in Major League Baseball on the road this year. Team that's bottom 5 in batting average, OPS, and WRC plus on the road. With all the low totals, we get a 4 in the first 5 here, so we still keep the push in our back pocket as opposed to that 3.5. Let's go under 4 runs between the Rays and Red Sox for my best bet.
Best bet there for Mark Zinno, and your best bet should be partnering with these guys. 7 days of action for a terrific price. Check out WT.buzz/deals to see all the ways to save over at WagerTalk. That's the best bets for the gentlemen. Hop below in the comments and let us know what your best bet is on the slate, whether you're agreeing or disagreeing. And while you're down there, hit that like button. All right, guys, last one here. It's for the live viewers because this one goes in about an hour. So if you're watching on the rewatch, that's why we saved it here towards the end. But maybe you can get some info on how to bet it live. It's Cincinnati and Arizona. And, hey, talk about a team who needed a win badly. That's what happened with Cincinnati last night. Just their second win in 13 games with that 6-2 win. But, Steve, a lot of those losses are, I guess not a lot of them, but at least over the weekend, there were walk-off fashion in consecutive games that kept them down. So they've been at least in the conversation here. They finally get it done. And now you have to lay -150 to back Brandon Pfaadt on the mound for Arizona. This has all the makings of a barking dog. If Cincinnati really is returning to some semblance of a form, what do you think in Cincinnati and Arizona here, the game going in about an hour?
Yeah, the Reds were an interesting team because when the season began, they were averaging like 5.5 runs a game and barely hitting over 200. And I said something's got to give, and I think the batting average is more of a true indicator, and that's what's played out because now they're averaging less than 4.5 runs a game. They're down almost 20% since that first few weeks. But their batting average has actually creeped up to 219. It was barely above the Mendoza line about a week ago. And yes, they have lost a lot of games recently, but I think they're turning the corner, Dan. The reason I say that is if you look at the offensive momentum, 3 straight games now with 5 runs or more and 10 hits or more, double-digit hits in all 3 of those. So this could be the turning point for Cincinnati. It could be a play-on team, and they actually have a 4-game series against the Dodgers coming up starting tomorrow. So maybe, since you can get 1 or 2 in LA at a big price, something to keep an eye on, including starting tonight, I'd probably lean towards Cincinnati.
And for me in this one, Zinno, I just don't like Pfaadt. I mean, I think it's that simple. So I might even split this one in half and just go Cincinnati in the first 5. It's not like I love Abbott either, but at least, and I know that it was against the Giants, but he was like on an 0-3 run as far as what he was doing in a win-loss ratio. And then he finally pitched a decent game against the Giants and kind of got off the snide there a little bit. So it's not like I love Abbott. Any chance that I can get to fade Pfaadt in a plus money spot, that's what makes me lean towards Cincinnati, but I might split it in half. What's your thoughts on this game?
I mean, Brandon Pfaadt should just be frozen until October and then brought out and cracked for the postseason. Because
and then he turns it around. Yeah,
it's the only time of year he can actually pitch. I don't know what to make of him, really. I mean, his first start of the year, 5 innings, 1 run. He looked great, like, I'm picking up right where we left off. And that's only one of the 2 8 starts. That 2 of the 8 starts that the D-backs have won that he's been on the mound this year. They're 2-6 with him on the mound. And the other win was a game where they only scored 3 runs and Pfaadt went 6 innings and gave up 2 runs. Other than that, it's kind of like, he was bad against Atlanta and St. Louis. So that's why his ERA is so high. But he's just been a very average quality start pitcher. 6 innings, 3 runs. It's nothing special. It's nothing exciting. But, I don't know what Steve makes of this, but I'm a big guy. I don't know why, teams score more runs for certain starters than others. He's only getting 3.8 runs per start. I can't understand. Brady Singer for the Orioles, he gets 6.4 runs per start. Don't know why. But, it tells me that when Brandon Pfaadt's on the mound, they don't score and they don't win. So it's tough for me to back Arizona in this spot here.
Yeah, I think we're kind of seeing this similar. It's not one that, I'd be pulling off the rubber band, running to the counter. But if you want some thoughts there on Cincinnati and Arizona on the way out, you got them. Just a reminder on what these guys had for their best bets. It was Astros laying the 1.5 for my man 2 R's, 1 L, Steve Merril and Mark Zinno going on the first 5 under the 4, Tampa Bay and Boston. Whether you're watching live or on the rewatch, we greatly appreciate you, and we would appreciate it even more if you hit that like button on the way out. For my man Steve Merril, for my man Mark Zinno, Dan Alexander here shutting things down. We still got the NBA tip-off show coming your way. More reasons than ever to hit that little bell and keep getting all that info you need to cash on all the sports you love. We do it on the daily here at WagerTalk TV. Best of luck, everyone. We'll see you on Thursday.